the co-author, one of the amazing co-authors of Unchain Me Mama, The Forgiveness Factor, the amazing Winifred Winston. Welcome, Winifred.
Thank you. The cheers. Thank you.
Virtual applause. Woo! So let's go ahead and jump on in and talk to the people. Let's let them know, Winifred, how did we meet?
Okay, so what had happened was I have a business account on Facebook, and I don't really know, but at the time I really didn't know how to work it. And I had a message from this guy in my message on my business page. So I'm like, oh, what is this? And he's like, this might sound weird. I'm trying to help my wife connect with you to find out if you guys are sisters. She saw you on Ancestry.com. Here's our Facebook link. Here's her phone number. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, yeah, give her my number. It's all good. I grew up in the days of pen pals, right? So I'm just like, okay, yeah, this girl thinks she's my sister. And so then I went to her Facebook page and I swiped, and she was running with Black Girls Run, and I run with Black Girls Run. And I swiped, and she's doing speaking presentations. And I'm like, I'll do speaking presentations. And I swiped, and she walks across the stage like she earned a degree. I said, hot damn, I'll take her. I'll take her. She could be my sister. And I reached out to him. He and I were going back and forth via instant messenger rather. And then he gave my sister, Audra R. Upchurch. Did you guys catch that? My sister, my phone number. And we stayed on the phone on a Tuesday night till about, I don't know, 3, 4 in the morning. And by that Friday, I met her in person. I met her. You would be Audra, my sister. So she's my sister, you guys.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that absolutely crazy? And it has literally just been a little over a year that we've met as actual sisters. We have the same dad.
April 23rd.
Yes, that's so amazing. So we have the same dad. Don't you see the features? Don't we look alike?
Yeah, see the gap.
Same gap in the teeth? Okay, I digress. And it's so amazing because not only do we have so many similarities as far as running and speaking and obtaining, both have our master's degrees. And I think of our mother's children, we're the only ones that have master's degrees. Isn't that weird also? And the only homeowners too. I mean, just so many similarities, right? But we also are writers. And it's been an amazing journey. And I know for me, it was an honor to have my sister enroll to be a part of the anthology. And I'm gonna tell you, she was the first one to enroll and did it without any hesitation to be a part of the project. And not just to support me, but she had her own story to share. Right? So for you guys that are watching who want to produce anthologies, I really wanted to make sure we talked about this part, not just to put my sister out there because I love her dearly, but because I want you to understand that your co-authors can come from anywhere, all walks of life, all parts of your life. You've heard me talk about people I've met at conferences that have enrolled to be in my anthologies, people I've met from social media, people that were following me that I didn't even know were following me. Past friends I used to run with in marathons. So they can come from anywhere. So don't put limitations, okay? Can you be open? Can you be open to the possibilities? And if you are willing, put in the comments a number 1, just to verbally, just to put it out there to the universe that you are willing to be open. So Winifred, let's tell the folks a little bit more about who you are as a person.
Sure, I'm a mom first. I'm an advocate, I'm a coach, I'm an author and a speaker. And so to jump back to how we met, it's not every day that you meet a sibling or that you have a sibling that you have so many similarities and so many things in common, right? So everything that I just named, I want to say my big sister can say that, yeah, we could kind of describe ourselves the same way.
Right.
But that's who I am, and that's who I was before I met her. That's how her husband was able to find me, is that I had a social media presence. He was Googling me all night, and my little business tag was connected to a career article because I'm a writer and I was already on the internet. So that's a little bit about who I am.
Awesome. So what made you decide to be a part of an anthology? Like, did you know anything about the writing process? You know, what had been your previous experience with that?
Oh, let me share with the people. So when my new sister founded me, right, I was like, well, I'm not sure if you know about this, but I want to change my business model because I was doing one-on-one coaching and I started doing workshops and I want to move away from that. She's like, really? That's what you want to do? I said, yeah, and I just paid this book coach, X amount of dollars. And, I worked with him for a little while. Really? Because I'm a 4-time Amazon bestselling author. I was like, So we were having a conversation, not business related. We shared a lot about how we grew up. We shared a lot about our mom, because my mother's deceased and our father is deceased. So in just trying to figure out where we were at the same time, not growing up, you know, Audra and I would have these personal conversations. So then she come back after our personal conversation and was like, you know what? I was thinking, I know you want to do an anthology, but maybe you should talk about X, Y, and Z with your mother. And I was like, what? She was like, yeah, when we talked that last time, maybe you should share that story. That would help someone. And I was like, I never talk about that. I don't want to talk like, wait a minute, you took our personal conversation and now you're flipping it over to I should be in this anthology. And she was like, well, yes, you know, it's going to help somebody else. And I thought about it and I was like, well, I've never wanted to delve into that pain with the relationship with me and my mom. And I thought, well, you know, if I'm going to tell a story, I guess, you know, that story could really help someone. So it was her turning our personal conversation as we're trying to get to know each other into, you should be in Unchain Me Mama and tell that story. And so then I kind of got on board with it, because originally I was thinking about a different anthology, and I knew that I wanted to create one eventually around dyslexia. But she, by her listening to me and then coming back and telling me why it was such a great story and it had to be told, I was kind of sold on the idea, and I signed up as soon as the anthology opened.
And let me provide some backstory to that. So as you guys know, we're releasing 2 anthologies, Fiercely Speaking and Unchain Me Mama, right? So in Fiercely Speaking, the authors are sharing how they found their voices in spite of cultural traditions, religion, or trauma. And that's the first one she was interested in. So she could talk about her movement, which she'll share a little bit more about that later. But through our personal conversation, I could hear something else. Have you ever spoke to someone and you hear what they're not saying? You get what they're not saying. And so as we talked about the experience with her mom, I could hear something else. And I don't even know she realizes it wasn't really about her sharing her story to help other people. It was really about her sharing her story to help her. And I'm hopefully now that she's written the story. Yeah, go ahead and roll your eyes at your big sister. It's okay. I can fight you on screen now. Anyway, you know, it was honestly, you know, and that's something I take to heart with all of my co-authors. I connect with them as people. It's more about them and who they'll be once they put the pen down. Because there's a transformation that happens to all of us as writers, especially when we're sharing these nonfiction stories, these true stories, these experiences that we lived through. It changes us. And so as I was talking to her, my love for her as a sister really is what prompted me to make that suggestion to her that she shared this particular story at this particular point in her life, because it's more than a book. It's more than a chapter. And you guys will see that once you read her amazing chapter. Can you share with the people the title of your chapter?
So the title of my chapter in Unchain Me Mama, The Forgiveness Factor, is Forgiveness is a journey, not a destination. And I talk about the journey of forgiving my mom. And so it just seemed fitting for this book. I promise you, she didn't come up with the title after I came up with the title of my chapter. So it fits right in with the book, because in sharing that conversation with Audra, I was really talking about how I forgave my mom and how I love my mom unconditionally. And through trauma is when I just put everything down and just wholeheartedly forgave her. But as I wrote that chapter, it really delved into me losing my mother more than once and getting her back again. And it was just a cycle. And that led to forgiveness. It was a journey. It wasn't just a destination like, oh, I'm grown now, I forgive my mother. It didn't happen like that.
You know, and that's the reality for most of us. For many of you watching, if you've gotten a copy of the first Unchain Me Mama, which came out in 2017. Hold on, can you see that on the screen? So that's the cover of our first Unchain Me Mama. This is a follow-up to that book. You know, in Unchain Me Mama, we talked about the journey to healing and restoration. And so many of the readers reached out to me via email, via inbox, and said, hey, you know, you're talking about healing and restoration, and that's great, but I can't even forgive what she did to me to even get to the healing. Like, how do you even get to that point? How do you get to the point where the person that you love most, the person that you depended on most, the person that mattered so much to you totally disappoints you, violates your trust, puts you in positions that no one should put you in as a child? How do you forgive that? And I am so honored that my sister, Winifred, and all the other co-authors in this edition of Unchained Me Mama decided to open up and share with you their process for forgiveness, because it's not easy. You know, that mother relationship, that's the first relationship you ever have, is with your mom, right? And every other relationship you have is formed from that. So when that relationship goes unhealed, when that relationship goes unforgiven, it affects everything, right? So I'm so thankful for authors like Winifred, who decided to share her story in this upcoming anthology. So speaking of upcoming, share with the people what's upcoming for you, Winifred.
Well, in addition to the book, I'm also launching a new business, Dyslexia Advocation. I don't know if you guys can see my t-shirt, but Dyslexia Advocation, my 9-year-old daughter, Logan, she's dyslexic. And in that journey of advocating for her and getting her the proper reading interventions and getting her in a specialized school, I thought, you know what, I want to help other parents, and specifically parents that look like me, because there's a stigma in the African-American community around learning differences. And a lot of people don't even know about dyslexia or what dyslexia is.
Hold on, can we pause for a second? When it comes to stigmas in the community, it's really sad. Because a lot of folks will be like, oh, ain't nothing wrong with that baby. Ain't nothing wrong with that baby. They just trying to label that baby. Ain't nothing wrong with her. And we really have to get past all of that. Anybody watching, have you ever heard that saying, oh, ain't nothing wrong with her? They just trying to label her. Oh, they don't understand. Oh, that's just how she is. And unfortunately, our babies, our kids, these children are being left unattended to. So I applaud you for the work you're doing and helping to eradicate this crazy stigma that unfortunately the community has embraced.
Yeah, I mean, I got that a lot too. Oh, she's so smart. I said, well, that's why I'm concerned. She's so smart, but she's not learning to read.
Right.
And Audra had the pleasure of coming to an event at her private school, and Logan we were the only African-American family in the lower school. So that says a lot about how many African-Americans know about specialized schools, or really wholeheartedly believe that dyslexia is a problem, and eradicate it and take the proper interventions and accommodations. Through this journey, we learned that her dad is dyslexic. He had no idea, never identified, just struggled, and just thought, oh, I'm just not an A student. You know what I mean? And a lot of parents, I hear them say, oh, well, I was going to give it some time. If you are struggling to read, no amount of time is going to make it better.
Right.
So I'm doing a lot of advocacy around dyslexia, and I thought, how can I monetize this? You know, because my sister's an entrepreneur and she's always going back, so you need to monetize this and stop giving it away for free. And I operated a career coaching business, and I thought, I want to do something different. And this just lined up together. And I also want to add that it helped me in writing the chapter with the sacrifices and decisions that I've had to make in order to make sure that Logan gets what she needs. I changed careers, and I've really financially sacrificed a lot. And then I think about my mom. She was a single mom. She worked 2 full-time jobs her entire life. So it made me look at her and the decisions that she made a lot differently. And being a mom and doing what I'm doing now, when I wrote about, you know, that forgiveness is a journey, not a destination. It made me appreciate my mom and look at her totally, totally differently, because a lot of folks tell me, oh my gosh, you're doing so great. You know, you do so much for Logan. And I think about what my mom not only did for me, but my 3 other siblings. So that's what's next up for me. Dyslexia Advocation, advocacy plus education, where I want to educate, empower, and equip parents with the tools to successfully advocate for their children with dyslexia and other language learning differences.
Wow. What can you share with any viewer that's watching right now who may have concerns that their child is dyslexic? Like, what is a sign? What is something that can help clear the fog for them?
Okay.
If they're kind of wondering and they're really unsure if they should tap in and dig in.
Sure. If you have a young child and they're struggling with learning their alphabets, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, you know, if they're struggling to learn their alphabet, if they have trouble associating sounds with letters, and if they can't remember sight words, that was a big thing for us. Logan was at a small private school. She would have spelling words, 5 spelling words, the next week 5. So we try to build on that, 10, 15, 20, and we get to 20, and it's like she only remember the first 5. And the sight words, I remember look, L-O-O-K. She could not remember that word. And I'm like, look, book, like book and look, just change one letter. But in her dyslexic mind, it didn't stick like that. And she just wasn't learning to read. I kept thinking, I've been reading to her since she's a baby, and she's not catching on. And this was in pre-K. This was in pre-K. She was about 4 or 5-ish, and the daycare she attended, most of those kids, when they graduated, they were reading. And I kept thinking, well, I don't want to compare my child to anybody else, but it doesn't seem like she's catching on. So if they have trouble remembering alphabets, math calculations and concepts, just the concept of adding and it builds onto another number, different things like that, go ahead and start researching. I say educate yourself, and I'm going to put it out there. Contact me, Dyslexia Advocation. We have a conversation. We can go over some things, and I can point you in the right direction, because the key is early intervention. Don't wait. Don't get caught up in, they're going to catch up. They're going to pick up. No, let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation. I can point you in the direction of some screeners. If they are struggling to read, get help now. Don't wait.
Love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. So you've already provided the people a contact method. Is that where you want anyone that's watching right now? If they have a question, if they want to keep in touch with you, if they are struggling with their child, what's the best way for them to find you?
The best way is Instagram. I'm so excited to say that. I've been building up that platform, and it's Dyslexia_advocation on Instagram. Just hit me up on Instagram to connect with me, and I'll point you in the right direction.
Okay, so that's Dyslexia_advocation on Instagram to keep in touch with Unchain Your Mama, The Forgiveness Factor co-author Winifred Winston, also my new sister. Isn't that awesome? And if you guys want to stay connected and stay abreast of when Unchain Your Mama, The Forgiveness Factor is going to drop, make sure you're connected inside our Mastering Meaningful Manuscripts community. That's it for us, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching #MeetTheAuthors. See you guys around.